Hello everyone, and welcome back to Monsters of the Past. As always, I'm your host, Mr.G. In our first bonus episode of Monsters of the Past, we'll be talking about one of the animals whose exclusion from the cards ticked me off the most. Mostly because this didn't get in, but that stupid fish did! Oh, sorry. Still mad about that. Let's just get into it. Today we're talking about Therizinosaurus. Therizinosaurus means scythe lizard, and it was a member of the Therizinosaur family. It was an herbivore that lived during the late Cretaceous in Mongolia. Therizinosaurus was a pretty big animal, being about 30 feet long. When it was first discovered in the 1950s, it was originally thought to have been a giant turtle-like animal. Yeah, this is mostly because of its fragmentary remains, and I guess the bones looked vaguely turtle-like? But as time went on and more bones were discovered and specimens related to it were unearthed, we realized that Therizinosaurus was actually a dinosaur. One thing about this guy that has puzzled paleontologists is what its diet was. One theory was that its claws were used to tear open termite mounds, which would make it an insectivore, but others argued that the claws were used for slashing prey and thus making it a meat eater. However, nowadays most scientists think that Therizinosaurs were herbivorous, and the claws were both used to get better grips on vegetation, and they could make a pretty good defense tool. Because of the unique bodily structure, most paleontologists don't think Therizinosaurs would have been very fast runners, and probably would have had to stand their ground when confronted rather than being able to run away. As such, I personally like to think that Therizinosaurs might have been kind of aggressive, but that's just what I think. I don't actually know how to measure aggression of animals that are dead. What do you guys think? Are there any dinosaurs that you personally think would have been pretty aggressive, besides meat eaters? Just tell me. I would love to hear. Another cool thing about Therizinosaurs is that they used to hold the record for having the biggest dinosaur that was concretely, irrefutably feathered, with Bipiaosaurus. However, it lost that title in 2012 with the discovery of Eutyrannus. Overall, Therizinosaurs are very interesting animals, and it sucks they didn't get a card, especially since that stupid fish didn't... Sorry. Now, obviously, I don't have a card to look at, so let's just get to pop culture. In the Jurassic Park franchise, Therizinosaurus was an enemy in the Game Gear version of The Lost World, and it was an adoptable animal in Jurassic Park 3 Park Builder. In this game, you could also adopt Bipiaosaurus and Segnosaurus. Therizinosaurus reappeared in the mobile game Jurassic World the Game, along with its relatives Segnosaurus and Erlikosaurus. Therizinosaurus appeared as an enemy in the video game Dino Crisis, where it's portrayed as a dromaeosaur for some reason. And they show up in Ark Survival Evolved. Therizinosaur was the subject of an episode of the Walking with Dinosaur spin-off Chased by Dinosaurs. And the last thing I'm going to mention today is the Land Before Time. Well, yes, Therizinosaurus itself never appeared. Its relative Bipiaosaurus did. In the 13th movie, the gang run across a group of creatures called Yellow Bellies, because they never actually refer to creatures by name. Anyway, in this film, they're portrayed as reptilian dodos. I'm not even joking about that, by the way. These guys are given all the attributes that are stereotypically given to dodos by Hollywood, in that they're some of the dumbest creatures on the planet. They always say something stupid, they have no self-preservation instinct, and they are always getting into trouble. Like, the moral of this movie is that you need to be wise, but someone clearly needs to educate these guys. Honestly, it's kind of a miracle that natural selection hasn't weeded these guys out. Like, how did these guys reproduce enough to have a species if they just literally go anywhere without any sort of sense of self-preservation whatsoever? Honestly, I was kind of rooting for the meat eaters in this movie, not gonna lie. And the designs in this movie are just terrible. Now, these are supposed to be Bipiaosauruses, as I said earlier, but they don't have any of the characteristics of a Therizinosaur. They don't have large claws, their tails are replaced with feather fans, and overall, they just look like giant chickens. I've always had this belief that they originally wanted to use dodo birds, but they felt that would have been way too noticeably anachronistic, so they decided to just take one of the coolest dinosaur groups and make it into a knockoff dodo bird or something like that. So yeah, I find this trail to be stupid, and these are some of the worst creatures in the history, and the gang should have just let them all die. Well, that's all for this episode of Monsters of the Past. I don't know what animal I'll be reviewing next. Leave your suggestions in the comments. But just remember, do not request anything that's too similar to an animal I've already reviewed. Bye!